To get from the G League to the league, you gotta be made different. And now's their chance to prove it at the G League Winter Showcase, a different kind of tournament for a different kind of hooper. Ready for the next level. This is a whole different league. This is the world's most G League. From December 19 through 22nd, catch the action on ESPN Networks and NBA TV.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Conn Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, like button, subscribe button. You can check us out there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. There will be no Therapy Tuesday live stream session Tuesday night because Washington practices on Tuesday. So don't know when we're going to be done. So nothing Tuesday night. There may be a mailbag on Monday or Tuesday, so pay attention to that. I'll let you know. If there is, check it out. I'll let you know on Twitter, wherever. There you go. I'm here with Nikki Javala. We got to go over and process what was a crazy game, Nikki. 20-12, Commanders lost the Giants. Mm-hmm. Major playoff implications. Mm-hmm. What's your big takeaway after this one?
Yeah, I missed opportunities. I hate to sound like Ron himself, but it's what it was. I mean, the offense couldn't get much of anything going in the pass game in the first half. Taylor Heinicke, whips out a little bit of his magic, but ultimately it's, the mistakes at the end that cost them. And yeah, you can throw in probably a couple missed calls, but they hadn't played as well as they needed to win that game.
Right. And we can talk about the missed calls right now just because it's on everybody's mind. I'm a big believer. They were pivotal calls. Yeah. They made too many mistakes they put themselves in a position where they needed every call to be perfect. But McLaurin, you were there for talking to him, and his takeaway was that he asked the ref. I mean, What did you come away with from that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear on the broadcast that he pointed to the official twice just to make sure he was at the line. This is on that 3rd and 1 on their final drive. You can see the official giving him a thumbs up the first time. It's not quite clear if he did it again the second time. But ultimately he was called for illegal formation. And talking to John Hussey, the official, after the game as part of the pool report, he said, he was a yard back. So he felt it was a clear call. So, yeah, it was a critical mistake. Terry himself said he shouldn't have been that close anyway, but it's a tough one to swallow when you feel like you did the checks and it went against you.
Right. And he said, to be clear, because he said the official told him, you're good.
Right.
And the other thing he said is that he goes, this is how I was lining up all game.
Right.
So that's where he has a problem with it. Like, why are you now? It's hard for me to say that that's how it was because we have to go back and look at every snap, essentially. But that's what Terry said. So then the other one was the non-PI call on the Curtis Samuel throw, where it clearly looks like there's contact on the play. I mean, we've seen that call on Benjamin St-Juste has been victimized by that a couple of times. Curtis didn't want to go there. Mm-hmm. Taylor Heinicke did.
Yeah, Taylor Heinicke they were all trying to pick their words carefully and say as much as they could without getting fined. Right. It seemed like Ron Rivera too.
Ron Rivera did
Yeah. So, I mean, it looked like he was pretty clearly held. When I asked the official for the pool report, he said it was a judgment call, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. But it was a non-call, and again, they had their opportunities down there. The red zone has been an issue throughout the season, and Ron Rivera said, we talked about this during the week off, and it still wasn't cleaned up. So, had those been the only two glaring mistakes, they have reason to be ticked off.
Right, and that's why I'm glad you go to segue to the red zone, because that's a bigger issue. Whatever the officials called, the red zone has been a consistent issue. Now, one of the things, and we saw this with Taylor tonight, for a lot of the part of the year, he's been very cautious, I think, on some throws. Okay. Waiting a little bit to see guys open, not throwing the same level of trust anticipation that he does before then. But he's been protecting the points. Right. Tonight, he didn't do that. Right. That fumble was a killer.
Right. And he had two of them. I mean, the one at the
one in the red zone.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that ended it for them, essentially, in my mind. So, yeah, I mean, it's, he has shown signs of growth throughout the season, but he's also shown signs of kind of why he's in this position of, he's a very good backup, but they don't view him as a long-term starter because these instances keep coming up where, whether it's a mechanical issue and he's throwing more from his back foot and it sails over over his receivers, or it just feels like he's always on that edge.
Right.
It could be a spectacular play, it could be a spectacularly awful play, and you're either going to get one of them. And tonight it was ultimately the mistakes that got him. So.
And it's funny because after the game he's talking about you got Curtis Samuel, you got Jahan Dotson, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Brian Robinson running the way he did.
Yeah,
you got 12 points.
Right.
Like, do you feel like they can they? Do you feel like they can do something with this passing game the way it is to make the playoffs? Because now you got to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I mean, they were winning for a while there during their run by relying primarily on the run game. It wasn't because the passing game suddenly came alive, right? And now we're starting to kind of see them get exposed there. So yeah, I think that's going to be a real hindrance.
Don't mind me.
What's going on?
Keep going.
That's going to be a real hindrance. Especially as they get later in this, especially going in San Fran against the 49ers defense. That's going to be really tough, and that's really their last chance to punch it in. So.
Can this passing game get them there? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. After seeing today, I would say no, it couldn't. It's going to be more of a liability than a help.
So do you? I mean, we're always at that edge now.
Right.
We saw Carson Wentz was out there warming up
right.
every kind of chance he got.
Right.
What do you think? Do you think that we're going to see him eventually?
Maybe. Do I think he's a better option? No. I don't particularly like any of their options. I'd rather start Logan Thomas, to be honest with you. I just don't. I think the one thing that Heinicke gives you is mobility, and he was showing that a little bit more today. He had a couple runs for first downs, and that's the one thing you can't really count on Wentz to do at this point in his career. So yeah, I don't like option B either. I think they got to find the way to get Brian Robinson the ball more, honestly.
Do you think Brian Robinson wants the ball more?
Yeah,
he probably does. But I don't know that he was running the ball well. Mm-hmm. You should be able to get, and they did get a big play to Jahan Dotson. Again, it's really like, let's look at the total yards for them tonight was what? They had
387.
387.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're getting numbers up.
It's the red zone.
Yeah.
So
they can't finish drives.
What do you think? My theory has been a little bit certainly with Hot Taylor.
Yeah.
People are gonna. I know we're gonna get a lot of things. It's Scott Turner's play calling. Is it all of it? What do you think?
I think it's a mix of everything. I think there's certain. I think you can throw in the play calling too. I mean, when you got Brian Robinson running like he is and dragging a team of defenders like at least 15 yards. Give him the ball. I think in 3rd and 3, Curtis Samuel should not be running the ball. I think it should be Brian Robinson. That's your guy. So yeah, I think there's some fair criticism there. I think there have been production issues too. Taylor has not been his best, to put it politely. I think it's spread across the board. I think when you're in that position, you're trying to play catch up, and you got mistakes. I'd say the special teams had a pretty good day, actually, in 2 phases, except for exactly. But when you got mistakes across the board like that, it's shared, So you can't point to any one person or any one thing as the culprit.
So let's look at the playoff picture right now for them. So they're a half game ahead of Detroit and Seattle. Yeah. Detroit is playing really well.
Yeah.
Seattle is kind of, right there, kind of like these guys. You're just teetering a little bit. How do you handicap this going to the stretch? Before, Detroit plays Carolina, Chicago, and Green Bay.
Yeah,
they'll be favored in each of those games. So how do you handicap this going down the stretch here?
I mean, I don't like Washington's odds right now. I mean, they go to San Francisco and face that defense, and you look at the opponents that the Lions have to face. That's not great odds, But again, they kind of put themselves in this situation,
they did.
And I agree with Taylor Heinicke. They should have won both these games, the tie and the loss today. Didn't get either.
I think they're going to look back on a number of games this year and just kind of bang their head against the wall. This is what cost them, whether it's Tennessee, Minnesota, these 2 games. Now, of course, they're not going to look back in Chicago and think, oh, you could have lost it because they won it.
Right.
So some of those things.
It's the same thing, though. It swings in your favor, but it's the same. it's the same margin,
yeah. But when you're on that precipice,
right,
this is what happens.
right.
You need that call. You need to make that play. You need to make that throw. There's one play here, and
right.
here that's going to decide it.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, I think you're right. I think when we look back on the season, it's going to be just a handful of plays. But that's how thin the margin is in this league.
Why does Daniel Jones keep doing this to this team?
Dude, he crushes them. He just has like his best games are against Washington. It's unbelievable. But
why?
Because he doesn't like Washington.
I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't like the color burgundy. I don't know.
But it's because I know like they really seem to be afraid of his running.
Yeah.
So you play a lot of zone, but there are a lot of holes in those zones. And he like what surprised me is really how little pressure they seem to put on him.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that you have to play pick your poison with Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. You know, he played that kind of game against Pat Mahomes, but Daniel Jones seems to play like Pat Mahomes against Washington. So,
but it's even like I can't remember if it was the third or fourth down conversion he had where they sent a blitz. Mm-hmm. But to his credit, like this guy knows where he's going with the ball right now. I mean, I think he's also. Look at the talent that's out there with him.
He's got nobody. He's got Saquon and Richie James occasionally, but like, they're
Slayton's not bad, but like
there's not much going on with that offense there, but he made the most of it for sure.
I like what Brian Dable has done with them too.
Yeah,
I mean he's the fourth down call, the first fourth down call where Washington does not attempt a field goal. Now, did you think they should?
I can go back, but yes, I do. I can somewhat buy the reasoning that it was not great temperature, but like he's hit from longer. He hit from 51 later in the game, so I don't fully buy it. I just the punt from 34 is just silly.
And you looked at what Dable did. Right. He went for it.
Went for it on very similar circumstances. Yeah. Right.
Now I will say, like, kind of trust Daniel Jones in that situation more. And so I give him credit, but I'm also trusting Samuel McLaurin, Dotson more than anybody else as well. And they also had a nice drive going too. So I know Rivera said that he didn't think because there was wind down there, that Joey Sly didn't have the distance there, but I mean, the problem was it ended up to be a 4-yard net because they gave up,
23-yard return.
One of the rare times they had bad punt.
So it's, I feel like it's a gamble when you do that, but when it's bad, it looks especially bad. And in a moment like that, I think you do need to trust the guys you have out there to just get it done.
And then the defense only really had two bad.
The 90 or 102
so really bad,
drive.
really bad drive.
And that was bad.
Yeah, and the other problem is they didn't create any turnovers, and that was to me the big difference in the game. And
that's where you feel not having St. Juste out there. I feel like St. Juste, especially St. Juste and Forrest together, they play really well together.
Right.
They were the spark of that secondary, and you really feel it when he's not there. That the defense was bailing out the offense up until that 102-yard drive, and then the wheels fell off. But they were getting stops. They were they forced 3 and out on their opening drive. Like they were getting things done. But that drive was brutal.
Yeah, it was bad. And then the one to get the last field goal was not a good drive because you're pinned and but it still comes down to sack, fumble, touchdown.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like I did not like it was 2nd and 18. I don't like them going empty there.
Yeah.
And I know Rivera said that he thought Taylor's got to hit your plant step and get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
But he said that the first option was not there, and he was taking a hit to go to the second option, and then that's when it happened. Yeah. So it was just bad execution. But I did not like going empty.
Yeah. I don't think they can protect when they go empty.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the only time I felt like this offense was really clicking was in that 6-play drive where he went down and he hit Jahan Dotson on the slant. Like that was a beautiful throw, and he threw it to a spot. I mean, Jahan wasn't even close to that spot by the time he released the ball. It was a great drive, but everything else around that just had mistakes here or there.
You think they make the playoffs at this point?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Was it like 40% chance?
Yeah, and now here's the other thing is I think if they win 2 games, I think they're in, because Detroit would have to win then all. Well, it's conceivable Detroit sweeps, but that would be them closing on a 9-game win streak. I think it is. So that's awfully difficult.
Yeah.
If they do, more power to them.
Yeah.
But if they win 2, so then it's Cleveland, and then does Dallas play for anything?
Yeah.
So and not that they couldn't beat Dallas if they're not playing, if they have to play for something. But I think
that's something, maybe keeping Washington out of the playoffs too, just to
screw. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, at this point, like, would you rather face them or a team like Detroit if they win 9 in a row? I think, but I think so. It comes down to, can that happen? And I think we'll just see. But if they lose in San Francisco, they have to win the next 2, or there's no chance.
Yeah.
And so.
And this was my fear for this game, not to be like that person. Oh, I told you so. I didn't see this coming. But the Giants were coming off an ugly loss to the Eagles. They were angry. They knew they wanted to come in here and get a win. This team had a lengthy layoff, which is good. A lot of guys got the rest they needed to recover, but they don't have that same momentum. And not that was a difference maker. It was ultimately the mistakes. But when you're on a hot streak like that, things are just kind of different.
Well, and I wondered too, like, did that cool some of it a little bit? And I think, the other thing I wonder too, like, just the mood of the locker room after the game, and just what was your take on the locker room? One of the things you see that I saw, like, I mean, clearly a lot of dejection, disappointment, pissed off about those calls, non-calls, whatever. I did see Jeremy Reeves go up to Taylor, give him a big hug for a few minutes, and talk to him for a few minutes. So, the one thing this team has been is resilient.
Yeah.
So that has to continue, and if not, then they have no chance at it. But what was your take on just being in there after the game?
Yeah, I mean, little things like that, like, people coming up to Taylor, and it's not really consoling him, but telling him just to keep his head up. I did see, Taylor go into Ron's office, and they had a chat together. Could be of any number of things. I don't want to put anything out there, but I think they all understood the magnitude of this game, and to lose it the way they did, it's very disappointing. Like, this was the time where they felt like the team had finally come together. A lot of the questions of, are they for real, or would they blow it at a certain point? They felt like they had started to answer those, and they were solid, and they just had to keep it up. And then to come out the way they did, to have the mistakes, and especially to have those calls at the end, I think it was really disappointing. They were pissed, they were upset, and they probably will be for a while.
Listen, this is the biggest home game that they've had in a long time in front of the fans. This is since the end of the 16th season.
This is the biggest game, I think, of the Ron Rivera era since probably that Philly game in 2020, where it was a atrocious game, but they clinched the NFC East,
But to have it in front of the fans, this is like this fan base. The one thing you notice with this game, how many more people that I heard from were like, I can't wait for this game. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. They finally get what they wanted, which was a good atmosphere and mostly home crowd.
Yeah. Not great. I mean, they kept it interesting to the end. I'll give them that much, but this is not the way you want to come out on Sunday Night Football.
All right. Well, that's it from us. You know where you can find Nikki on Twitter at Nikki Jhabvala, JHABVALA, NICKI. So there you go. You can find me on Twitter at John_Keim, of course, as you know. Anyways, thanks to Nikki for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. And probably may have another podcast out on Tuesday. Look for it then. I will talk to you next time.